Well, Manny, what an introduction. We're going to have a call to action a little later on today. I guess I could take my call to action to be tightening up my Twitter profile bio to make things easier on you in the future, but very appreciative of that intro.
So appreciative. Thank you. And I can just see the chat already lively. Thank you all for being here with us today.
And of course, Stacey already doing a really cool job with the background where you're like in the circle. So
I'm in
amazing
the
stuff.
circle, the circle. Yeah.
Yeah, very nice. Very nice. So if you want to share the presentation, we're very excited to be here with you today. We have a QR code available to you for this Beyond Quizzes, Edpuzzle, and Student Wellbeing slide deck that we're going to kind of go through with you. There's a multitude of types of resources available to you in here. So if you'd like to scan that with your phone, you can do that. But you can also do bit.ly/summit24 slides to get this Canva deck right on your device. You can follow along with us if you like.
All right. I switched slides, but it's not going. There we go.
So I'm, again, Alex Isaacs, a proud tech coach at Long Branch Public Schools. First full year on the job. I was a middle school math teacher prior to that with a great passion for, making accessible materials for my multilingual learners, all of my students that I taught for many years, and just couldn't be more thrilled to be presenting with Stacey.
Seriously, this is like a dream team presentation here. I'm Stacey Roshan. I currently work as an ed tech consultant, but before this, I was working in an independent school for about 16 years. I started as a math teacher, and then slowly I got more into ed tech integration from what I was seeing personal wins. And then I was able to share that with others at my school. And now I kind of do it around the US.
So we're going to kind of go over in a broad sense some of our pro tips. Me in a grade 8 math class, I wasn't just using it for that formative assessment piece to see what my students knew. I was using it either for remediation or extension tasks or flipping my classroom. But these are kind of what Stacey and I feel are some good things to keep in mind when planning a video lesson with Edpuzzle. For us, it's kind of keeping your video lanes short, shorter end, because you got to remember they're going to be interacting with the materials that you include, what you embed into your lesson. So you can really keep in mind, really not going over the age of your students, but 5 to 7 minutes usually works pretty well, especially if you have different types of questions embedded in. Leading right into our second point, really varying up those question types, including audio notes for your students to gain some context, to gain that accessibility piece. And you also, if we're talking about the well-being piece, that SEL piece, we want our students to reflect on their own personal experiences. So really trying to create scenario-based prompts that are relevant to your students, depending on their age level, what they're into. You know your students best as you go through the school year, and you can kind of tailor your materials to that. And then for me, it's also always about kind of including those links directly in that video lesson, where if students want to take that next step, if they want to look at a mood meter or different apps that might be helpful to them, or a breathing technique YouTube clip, these are all the types of things that you can make available within an interactive lesson that your students can then take away and engage with, as compared to just kind of sitting and stagnantly watching a video in front of them.
Yeah, I think that piece is so important. Make it as interactive as we can. And I think Edpuzzle is totally the tool for that. So to open, we're going to talk about how we can structure our Edpuzzle assignment as an actual lesson. So really thinking about this beginning, middle, and end. And to create this impactful lesson that integrates some social emotional learning, we can think about the video lesson as a comprehensive check-in rather than just a quiz. So I personally think that when we frame our lesson design process like this, so we really think about this thoughtful beginning, this middle, and this end, we're able to foster student engagement, promote deeper learning, and incorporate emotional well-being all within one assignment and using just one tool. So I'm going to take you through kind of some ideas of that beginning, middle, and end right now. And it's really, really a simple idea. So start with an opening, a clear introduction that sets a tone for the lesson and clearly states your learning objective. So this can help students get into the right frame of mind for the lesson ahead, right? Because maybe they're coming from doing another assignment, or they're coming from just eating dinner, or whatever they might be doing, and then they just press play on the video and they're just not in the right headspace yet. In the classroom, we usually start with, some objectives on the board. Do that same type of thing in Edpuzzle. Now, if you've recorded the video yourself, you might have already done this, right? You might have already embedded these ideas directly into the video, in which case you don't need to lean so much on Edpuzzle after the fact to add anything. But maybe you've forgotten to do that. Maybe you want to customize this year to year, or maybe you're using a video that someone else has created, which is also a great way to do things. This introductory note can be really key in this situation. So in Edpuzzle, I think oftentimes we think of Edpuzzle as all the little quiz questions that we can embed along the way. But note that when you go to add a question, you can also add a note. And that note can be a great way to do some introductory text. So set the scene, set some objectives, and you can even add some audio there. You can add text and audio. You can add just text also, whatever you like. Now, in addition, at that very first check-in, you might want to do just a little mood check. So something like this temperature check, which I often use, something like emoji check-in. How are you doing today? So students just have to put a quick emoji. That way it's easy for them, something that they're likely to respond with. And also it's easy for you to just scroll through and look through so you don't have to read a bunch of text, just so students can let you know how they're feeling without having to type too much. So we're going to get into more about how to set this up in a second, but just these are the ideas. So that's an idea for the beginning, how to open your Edpuzzle lesson. During the lesson, you're going to obviously be adding some multiple choice questions, some short answer checks, but you can also add notes along the way. And I really like to do this because these notes, again, they're going to force the video to pause and allow you to communicate directly with students, much like you would in the classroom when you're kind of pausing the lesson to emphasize something. I use this as a way to make sure that, for instance, students might jot down a note on their paper, just like a margin note in a textbook, to really let their ears perk up. Okay, I needed to be paying attention right now in case they were zoning out. As a math teacher, I also often use this as a way to tell them, hey, do you have your calculator? Get it out now because I want you to practice alongside with me. Now, if you're using a video that you've created, you're speaking your own language, your students know your language, but if you're using a video that somebody else has created, this is also a way for you to chat out with students in your own words. So you can even add that combination of the written note and the audio note, like I said before, for the extra degree of personalization. Some ideas here are if a video, you're using somebody else's video and they use a piece of vocabulary that you hadn't yet introduced, you can add a quick little Edpuzzle note to explain that concept to students in your own words so that they can follow it more easily. And also there's oftentimes, I know as a math teacher that, maybe we'll say something a little bit differently than somebody else. And so just help students make that connection between what they're hearing in the video and how you might say it in class. And that little added bit of clarification on the vocabulary term could really help students understand in the context they usually hear you say it in. All right, final thing is closing the video. So we can conclude with kind of a summary that offers students a chance to highlight key points they've learned. This is one of my favorite ways to do an exit ticket at the end of my Edpuzzle. It's a way, again, just embed that, like Alex was saying at the beginning, all in one tool, all in one space. So students can do reflection, they can do some extension, they can do some follow-up. And oftentimes this is what I'll use for the next class period, whatever I ended on. So it makes a real connection to class the next day. As well, you get this information before students come to class, so it gives you a lot of valuable insights into areas that students need further support, and also gives students that opportunity to get whatever's in their head to you in the moment.
So while Stacey was kind of talking about it from a subject-based kind of standpoint, all of those different strategies applies when we're just trying to deal with wellness types of activities, video lessons. So really all of these different ideas are applicable within your content area or whatever other subject you're teaching. But what really happens is you include more of these opportunities for your students. It's going to become more commonplace for them. They're going to become more comfortable, and that's really our first bullet point, is being consistent with these wellness opportunities for your students. I mean, speaking for me personally, as a grade 8 math teacher in a district where I had a lot of students with real needs, whether it be emotional or, just that ability to feel happy about things in their day-to-day life. I was always trying to embed those wellness opportunities. And Andrew, I see your comment in the chat. We will definitely post these at the end as well. You'll have the opportunity to grab these. It was just really something that I took on me because I wanted to give kids this outlet even in a math class. And as I developed that rapport with them, sometimes through Edpuzzle video lessons, other times through them just simply sharing with me, it developed that sense of, okay, this is what is expected. This is kind of the normalcy of this math class. And I'm going to be able to share if there's something going on in my life that I want my teacher to know about. I'm going to be able to do that. So really just keeping in mind that you want to monitor student progress. If your students are sharing in some type of wellness activity, personal experiences, you want to celebrate their willingness to share. You want to build that confidence in them that they know you're actually listening to them. I mean, sometimes I was getting messages that were serious, kids in a time of need or asking for assistance. And then I was taking that information to the proper channels and making sure that they were heard and had their voice be really amplified with this platform. Me personally, if you look through the Edpuzzle video lesson that you'll see later in this slide deck, you will hear me giving my own personal, stories as far as instances where I may not have achieved a goal or an instance where I did overcome something. So that ability to kind of share more about yourself within an Edpuzzle lesson with those notes that Stacey was talking about, that's really something that you can do. And for me, I always have accessibility in mind and inclusivity. I'm always using the built-in audio response and feedback features on here. When I was a math-centric teacher, it was trying to figure out what the best wrong answers were for multiple choice and then giving them that audio feedback so as to where they kind of might have gone wrong, so they get that added layer of accessibility for themselves.
And can I just add in one more thing? Stormy
Sure.
brought it up and we didn't mention it, though Alex and I have definitely talked about it a lot. You can also add in images, and that can be a great way to communicate. She mentioned, especially with the younger learners. So definitely that's a great strategy as well. Thank you for
Sure.
adding.
So for me, Stacey's already kind of touched upon this. I just wanted to give you an interactive kind of look at what it looks like when you're creating questions for open-ended, especially. And for me, as I said, I had a lot of Spanish-speaking, Portuguese-speaking students in my class, and I was always allowing them that opportunity, toggling on that option so that they were able to share with their voice if they might not have been as confident with typing or anything like that. And I was also usually, as Stacey mentioned as well, with those warm welcomes, with those openings, really just setting the scene with audio message on my end in that area of the lesson. But for me, was always toggling that on to add in that layer of accessibility for my students so that if they weren't the most confident with typing, they could speak their answer out and feel confident. And then on this slide, I kind of just illustrated what are the three different areas as far as kind of creating a question that you can add in that audio aspect. So you can see right now in that GIF, that has it where you're adding in audio to the actual question. So for those of you who are out there that are dealing with students who are emerging bilingual learners or, multilingual learners, that's one opportunity for you to read the question to them, have that added layer of accessibility built right into the platform. What's going on right now on that kind of yellow rectangle, that's me leaving audio and text feedback for students. So in that bottom right corner of each of your multiple choice options, you're going to have that ability to switch back and forth between your feedback and the response, the different answer option, excuse me. So which you can see right now, I'm actually recording what that equation says. So you have those three layers of being able to record your voice for your students. And when I tell you, believe me, the more they hear your voice in these types of assignments, that's going to build that level of rapport with your students. I mean that as well. So I was always taking advantage of those three different areas to embed that audio within my video lessons to make it as accessible, as inclusive as possible for my students.
So, as we talk about all these different types of response options that Edpuzzle provides, I wanted to give a quick shout out to the equation editor in Edpuzzle. So, Alex and I are both math teachers, so we can't present without making sure that you're aware of all that Edpuzzle's equation editor makes possible. So my class that I've taught more than any other class is AP Calculus, and I definitely needed the equation editor, and works phenomenally in Edpuzzle. It's so simple to use, and it really supports all different levels of equations. So we're talking from just making simple fractions look like actual fractions. That visual is very important. I know students are used to 2 look like 2 divided by 3, but it is much more powerful when we can just write it out in a way that is visually representative of how we normally write out math. And so even complex calculus equations, I can do that all in Edpuzzle. I was going to do a live demo and ask for any questions that people had or something that somebody wanted me to type to show you, but so out of the blue, I have been using Edpuzzle for over a decade, all right? And I use this equation editor all the time, and it just happens to be out today. It's not Edpuzzle's end, it's actually what Edpuzzle uses. So they're doing some maintenance, so it's not working correctly today. So I can't do that live demo, but if anybody has any questions, do send them on to me. Let me just tell you 2 quick things. One is that you can just use kind of a picker in order to choose the equation. So it'll have a symbol for fractions. So you can just choose that if you're not really into the equation editor, LaTeX typing. But if you do like to just type something like /fraction, which I like to do, it's shorter, I kind of know the shortcuts. You can just type it with those LaTeX shortcuts, and it really cuts down on the time of having to pick from everything. So that's great. As well, you can edit the equations. So even though it kind of looks like it is it looks like it's an image, that's how it kind of appears, but it's not an image because an image wouldn't be editable. This is actually editable. So from year to year, you can switch it up a little bit. You can put the equation in the question itself, like you can see me doing here, but also the answer options support equations, and it's just so easy. So quick shout out to a great feature in Edpuzzle.
And Stacey, I don't want to be the first group to get Manny's flaming one coming on the screen, so I'll go very quickly on this one. This is a sample SEL integrated lesson that I used with my students that did very well with them. So Stacey, if you want to go on to the call to action, I think it might make a little bit more, impact. So Stacey's going to share a little brief call to action with it.
Yeah, so we wanted to challenge you all to put what you've learned today into action. So we're asking you to find and edit or create an Edpuzzle video lesson that promotes the positive wellness strategies that we've discussed, and get ready to assign this lesson to your students in the fall. And you can really use some of the things that that Alex is about to share too, and that are in our slides as inspiration, because he's left you a gem of a lesson to build off of.
Thank you, Stacey, and I appreciate you contributing and giving me your feedback. So within this slide deck, and again, we'll be getting the bit.ly out one more time. This is this QR code will bring you to a Wakelet resource hub that I'm very proud to share. It's one that I use in my school district, but again, Stacey was nice enough to give me feedback. Manny contributed. Melissa Aveling, who's presenting a little bit later on and closing out the Red Path today, did as well. So we would love for you to use this, whether you're a vet or somebody just learning the platform. We feel you'll be able to take something away with it. So we hope you found at least one thing to take away from tonight and integrate into your own class. Manny, don't do it to me. Don't do it. We made it. Okay. Still 6:20 with 42 seconds. All right. But we appreciate everybody. Shout out to everyone. Some of the Wake with Trainer team that showed up. We appreciate it. And just so appreciative of this opportunity to present with Stacey. So many, very thankful for you in this opportunity from Edpuzzle.